All cell phones and pagers at this time. The session is about to begin. Please take your seats. The session is about to begin. Please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, as a courtesy to those around you, please silence all cell phones and pagers at this time. The session is about to begin. Please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, as a courtesy to those around you, please silence all cell phones and pagers at this time. The session will begin in 5 minutes.
Please take your seats. The program is about to begin.
Hi, everyone. Please feel free to come down front. There's plenty of seats in the front, plenty of seats over here to the right. Please fill in. We have a big crowd, so make some new friends and come fill into the empty seats, please. Thank you. The program will begin momentarily.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The program is about to begin.
Good morning. There's still a bunch of seats. Fill in, squeeze in a little bit so if people can still sit down. Good morning, AICHE students, chemical engineers, and chapter advisors. My name is Ryan Snyder, and I'm a professor at Bucknell University. And I'm the chair of AICHE's Student Chapters Committee. And on behalf of AICHE, I want to welcome you all to our annual student conference. First, we want to say thank you for traveling to our conference. Nearly 1,700 chemical engineering students are here today. That represents a whole lot of potential, and we hope that you will bring your best energy to this conference. For many of you, this will be your first step outside of your student chapter and into your future professional engineering community. How many of you is this your first AICHE annual student conference? That's a lot of people. Well, here at AICHE, you will be in good company. Starting this weekend, there will be 5,000 chemical engineers, including thousands of professionals that will gather here to exchange knowledge and make connections. This is my 20th AICHE annual meeting. I've attended for every year since I was in graduate school, and this is my home, and I hope it will be your home in years to come. After the conference is over, you can stay connected to this community by following AICHE on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And this weekend, you can post about the student conference experience using the hashtag AICHEASC. Be sure to tag us at Connected, that's CHENECTED on Instagram and Twitter, so that we can share it. And you can even find stickers to use on Instagram by searching AICHE in the Instagram app. Turning to our program, yesterday we kicked off the conference with workshops, and I want to thank all the students and chapters that brought those to us. Today, our schedule is packed with learning experiences. We'll have some fun as well. Your conference program describes everything, but also I would personally recommend downloading the AICHE Events app to keep track of everything. Keep in mind that your conference badge is your passport to the annual student conference. They made me take mine off to come up here, but you need it to come into these things. That being said, when you go out to the real world, take your name tag off. Both professionally good practice, but it's also a safety thing, so people don't know your name randomly on the street. Before we continue, we must show our thanks to this year's annual student conference sponsors. They are led by Celanese, who is the sponsor for our breakfast and keynote this morning, and we are very grateful for that. Our platinum sponsors, Celanese and Chevron. Next, we also have our gold sponsors, Evonik, ExxonMobil, and Owens Corning. Our silver sponsor is Merck, and our bronze sponsors are Avena, Imperial College London, the University of Kansas, SLB, and Virginia Commonwealth University. I'll also mention that your subsidized AICHE student membership is made possible by our chess sponsor organizations, and those are Celanese and Chevron. The generosity of these organizations has helped AICHE serve you, as well as thousands of undergraduates around the world. So let's take a moment and show our appreciation to those supporters. Later in the session this morning, I'll tell you about today's program, but first, let me introduce to you AICHE's CEO and Executive Director, Darlene Schuster. She has a few words for you about the future and the larger world of AICHE. Darlene?
Thank you, Ryan, and good morning to all the AICHE students and advisors today. This is really a very impressive as well as large group of the whole future of the profession of chemical engineering, and also how we're going to be able to use our knowledge to help serve societal problems as we're moving forward. We have a home for you at AICHE that's going to enable you to implement all the different professions and advances that you want, both for you individually as well as for the companies and the academic institutions you may be working for in the future. Now, we're really honored today, and in a little while we're going to introduce our keynote speaker, Lori Ryerkerk, who is the chairman, CEO, and president of Celanese Corporation, and as you know, it's a Fortune 500 chemicals and specialty material companies. Lori is going to share her experiences as being a chemical engineer, and also how Celanese is working in our profession to shape the future of sustainability. But before we get to Lori, let me just have a few thoughts I'd like to share with you about AICHE. This is your professional home. We've existed for some 115 years. There's a lot of history as well as prestige in that. And the people that have guided our profession to bring so many wonderful things that products and services from chemical engineering processes help serve with our life and our overall existence in our creature comforts and our efforts that we're doing to be able to help work in a sustainable and environmental manner. Now, AICHE has 3 strategic missions. It's our aspiration statement. And one of them is to advance the technical profession. So this is your research papers, the way that you're going to be interacting and networking, taking your technology forward, the publications that might be doing, as well as our industry groups that we have that help serve the various industry activities in process safety, process intensification, as well as thermodynamic data property. The second thing that we do is help the individual in their overall career advancement. We do this mainly through our Institute for Learning and Innovation, and it's going to be serving as your lifetime home, starting with you now as students, to learn how to get internships, understand career discovery, look at the different ways that you might be able to change your careers and what you might do at different points within your chemical engineering profession. Lots that we can talk to you about that, and that's something we'll be working with you with your student chapter advisors and your student chapter presidents, so you'll learn more about that. The third area is how we use our expertise to help serve society. This is problem solving, finding solutions to climate change, how we address environmental issues, and there's so many ways that we implement this through our Societal Impact Operating Council that there's even more for you to learn about there too. Now, the bottom line is that in addition to these being our three aspirations, everything we are doing has an underpinning of IDEAL. IDEAL is inclusion, diversity, equity, anti-racism, and learning. This is an aspiration that our board of directors put in place some 5 years ago, and we are working very hard to make our profession inclusive as well as secure and welcoming to all that want to work in our profession moving forward. All of these activities we're talking about is driven by chemical and bioengineers just like all of us. And we've been doing this for over 115 years, as I've said. Many good things in store. And as the next generation of AICHE professionals, please remember, any time in your career that you're looking for a change, some learning, some advancement, some mentorship, some guidance, this is your professional home. And please come back and keep this as your professional home moving forward. Now I'm going to introduce to you Billy Barden, our president, current president of AICHE, and he is the Global Climate Transition Director at Dow. And Billy's going to give a few welcoming words and then introduce you to our keynote speaker. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. How do you like being in Orlando? I can't hear you. You can do better than that. Well, first of all, let me add my welcome to having you here at the annual student conference. This is an outstanding opportunity for you to advance your professional career, make new friends that will last you a lifetime, that will help you network, help you get jobs, which I'm pretty sure all of you want to have at some point after you finish, and to be ultimately successful and leave a legacy of how you can impact a profession. We have a lot of challenges and a lot of opportunities in society today, and chemical engineers are critically important for helping to solve those challenges. So we welcome all of you into the profession, and we have a lot of work for you to do. And it won't be homework, it won't be thermo, it won't be reaction engineering or design. It'll be work that impacts how you, your kids, your family work and feel and are contributing to the environment around us. I saw when Ryan asked the question, a show of hands of how many this was your first student conference. Can you just raise that again? I want to see the full spectrum here. Wow, that's a huge group that it's your first time here. You know, I can tell you that at my first conference, I met people at that time, now nearly 30 years ago, that are still my colleagues. I work with them today. We've done research projects together. They've been lifelong friends, and there's no going back on the experiences that we shared together. And I never thought 30 years ago that I would be standing here and have the honor of serving as the AICHE president. When I was where you are, I basically thought that AICHE was a small student chapter, a campus organization where companies would come and give us food and talk about what they wanted us to do when we went to work for them. I really had no idea when I was a sophomore, a junior, or senior that there was a huge home professional organization that encompassed the AICHE National Institute. We have an outstanding staff to make sure we are able to have the opportunities to impact the society around us through our chemical engineering practice. I had no idea about that. I would get the magazine and I would look at the pictures of the officers in the back and say, well, you know, those guys are pretty old and hey, they look like they're doing something fun, but I had really no idea what they did. And it was through my involvement in AICHE as a professional that I began to understand how, as a home of chemical engineering, you can really use this as a vehicle to make some impact, help the students that are coming behind you. And during my career with AICHE, I've had a chance to start and help lead an organization that we call DORIC, our Disability Outreach and Inclusion Community, which helps those students who have different abilities than we do to be successful. I had a chance to work with more than 80 or 100 graduate students, so your TAs, the folks that are doing university research with your professors, and help them come to the meetings, help them be able to present their research and find outstanding roles in industry or academia. And also to work on programs like our RAPID, Process Manufacturing Institute, which you study about process intensification and making environmentally sound designs in your design class. RAPID does that at the professional level. We're funded by the U.S. Department of Energy. We're getting government money to help advance chemical engineering and the processes that we practice. It saves carbon emissions, it has higher energy intensity, and it's a huge consortium of individuals and companies that are working together through AICHE to make that happen. I could have never done any of those things if I hadn't found out that AICHE was a professional society and chose to join and chose to engage. So as you're here this weekend, I would encourage you to take full advantage of all the opportunities that are around. We're going to have a chance to meet some of the leadership later on. You have a chance to engage with our emerging professionals community, or we're hosting a lot of workshops. They can help you with your professional development, your resumes, interview skills. There's a lot of things that you can tap into. Darlene mentioned the Institute for Learning and Innovation. They have tremendous amount of professional development classes and safety classes that can help you advance your career, position you as a differentiated candidate when you go to interview. So take full advantage while you're here. Figure out what you want to do and leave a legacy, make some friends, make some connections. And I've had many roles in my career at Dow. I've been an R&D engineer, I've been a manufacturing leader, I've been an R&D leader. I worked in digital and manufacturing as one of the global leaders for the company. As Darlene said, I now lead our global climate change office, working on how we improve our environment and sustainability initiatives. But when I'm asked what do I do for my job or what is my profession, my answer is I'm a chemical engineer. That's what I put on my tax return every year. I'm a chemical engineer. I'm not a leader of whatever group I happen to be. I'm a chemical engineer, and that's what I always come back to as a core value. So I can challenge you to do the same. Be a chemical engineer and solve some problems. Make it a better place to live. So I have the honor today also to introduce our keynote speaker, Ryerkerk, CEO and chairman at Celanese. As you heard from Darlene, one of the largest materials and chemical manufacturing companies in the world. Lori did her undergraduate and studies at Iowa State. Any Cyclones in the house? You know, you have your one of your most distinguished alumni here. So you guys, it's good you're all on the front row, holding up well for the school. So appreciate that. She has a long and distinguished career in the process and chemicals and materials and petrochemicals and refining area. She started ExxonMobil, worked many years there, and then had an opportunity to go to Hess Corporation, where she was vice president of supply chain refining. She then moved from Hess Corporation to Royal Dutch Shell, another huge company. I mean, you can see the trajectory here. She's like getting bigger and bigger and bigger jobs. So this is what you should all be aspiring to do. And she led over 30,000 employees as an executive vice president at Shell. And now she's here coming to talk to you and helping to convey some of her knowledge and her experiences to help you advance your career and how you can impact those around you. Under her current leadership at Celanese, Celanese has been a tremendous supporter of AICHE. They're one of our large sponsors and donors, so please give a round of applause for Celanese for their support for us. In addition to her role inside of her company, so her day job, Lori is also a member of the American Chemistry Council Board of Directors and was just elected to be one of their officers. So she's doing her professional development as well, just as you are in your student chapters. And for those that don't know, the American Chemistry Council is one of the most important industry groups we have for our profession. They work with legislators, they work with government, they work with NGOs, they work with all of the manufacturers and sponsors to help us do what we need to do to make the country and our society better. So Lori, thank you for your service to the industry. Lori's going to talk to us today about her talk, which is The Chemistry of Us, Harnessing the Power of Chemistry for a Sustainable Future. So in my role, I'm looking forward to see what Celanese is doing in climate change and sustainability. And at the end of the talk, there's going to be time for questions. So go to the Slido, slido.com. I think probably most of you are aware of Slido, and put in the hashtag AICHE. There we go. So it's on the screen. Put in hashtag AICHE, and you can start to submit your questions for Lori at the end of her talk. So with that, I'd like to ask Lori to come to the stage and look forward to your presentation.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. I have a lot to get ready here. So it is wonderful to be here. I am going to apologize in advance. I'm getting over a touch of laryngitis. I typically sound a little bit better than this, but I think we'll make it through the day. I will get some water, though. Great. It is so exciting to see so many students here. You know, I graduated in 1983. It wasn't a great year for the industry. We had, we'd just gone through an economic crisis. Hiring was way down. My class was quite small. I don't know that we could have gotten this many students together at that time. I don't know if there were that many in the country. So it is really exciting. You know, as I just came actually from an ACC meeting, and as CEOs, we often sit around and lament about, you know, is there enough talent to keep our industries growing? Is there enough talent to keep our companies growing? Do we have enough good talent? And it's so exciting for me to be in this room and see how much talent we have, because you guys really are the future of the industry, and this industry is so important for the world going forward. And I'll talk more about that as I go. Just a little bit. I mean, they've already given my biography. I'm an Iowa State grad. I'm an Iowa girl. I grew up there. I was the last of 5 children. And I went to Iowa State and, you know, was blessed to be able to get a good career. I'm not sure I knew what I was getting into. I just knew I liked chemistry and math. And when I graduated as a chemical engineer, I went to graduate school for a year, and then I was fortunate enough to get a role with Exxon at their Baton Rouge, Louisiana refinery. Now, I don't know about y'all, when you start looking at jobs, I did a lot of interviewing, but when I went to Exxon, I felt like I had just walked into the biggest toy box for a chemical engineer. Everything they had was there in large scale. We had furnaces, reactors, we had heat exchangers. You know, everything you'd ever studied was there, and I loved it. And I spent nearly 24 and a half years with Exxon. I started as a process engineer and worked my way through various positions, economics, supervision, running plant, running units in the plant. I worked in the headquarters. I did financial planning. I ran a refinery. I ran a chemical plant, and I even ran an electrical utility generation company in Hong Kong for a number of years. Then I left Exxon. I went to Hess. I ran their refinery, their supply. I got to do trading in New York City, which was exciting. Got to do distribution. I learned what cash was at a smaller company like Hess and why it was so important to actually generate cash. Imagine that. And then I went to Shell, and I ran Shell first Europe and Africa, all of their manufacturing, so all of their refining and chemical plants for a number of years. And then I took over the global job doing the same thing for the entire globe, where I had about 33,000 people. So, I've had so many experiences in my life. To put it in perspective, I think I've had 16 jobs over the course of my career. I've moved 13 times. I lived, when my son, I have 2 children. I have a daughter who's 33, a son who's 26. When my son turned 18, he had lived more years out of the United States than in the United States, We lived 4 years in Hong Kong, 4 years in the Netherlands, and 2 years in London. And so, it's been an exciting career, but all of these experiences, all the different jobs, even the different companies I went to, the fact that I got to live in different experience, different cultures, different ways of thinking, really prepared me for the job that I have today, because you don't step into one of these jobs without having done a lot of that kind of thing. So I want to talk really today more about sustainability, and of course I'm happy to answer questions later about my career, but I really want to think about how far we've come in this word, and the use of this word. This will be hard probably for most of you to imagine looking at the age in the group. Maybe there's a few advisors here that will get it, but I can remember helping my dad change the oil on our cars, and we literally took the used motor oil and put it in the sewer. That's what happened in the 60s and 70s. That was considered the best way to dispose of used motor oil. You put it in the sewer, which meant it very quickly got into the water supply and into the river. But that's what happened. Recycling was incredibly new. In 1985, a few years after I graduated from Iowa State, there was only about 10% of the households in the US that had access to recycling. And now that's about 65%. But recycling was, you took your glass soda bottles back so you could get the refund. But other than that, there wasn't a lot of recycling that went on. Even when I started in the industry, we thought very differently about emissions or events. If you had emissions, just make sure they're high enough that people don't smell them. It's okay. Spills happened, and unless they caught on fire, we didn't worry about them too much. And even fires were not that unusual. I can remember starting in a refinery, the fire trucks rolled every day. Every day. They didn't have to do a lot of training events. They got training every day. And even when it came to safety, we accepted that there would be a certain amount of injuries. I mean, early in my career, it was considered a pretty good year if you only had one fatality a year. And it's so hard, even for me, even though I lived that, looking back, to realize how far we've come. Energy consumption, we didn't worry about it because generally fuel was cheap. The only reason we worried about it is because in 1970 there was an energy crisis and crude got really expensive. And so we did some we did energy savings, energy efficiency simply for cost saving. It wasn't about the environment. And it sounds horrible, and you're like, why are you telling us these things? And it's because no one was trying to do the wrong thing. We were all doing what we thought was the right thing, given what we knew at that time and where the science was. And what we didn't realize how much we didn't know as individuals, as companies, as engineers, even as a society. There was so much we didn't know. And the good news, though, is over the last more than 35 years, our understanding of the impact that we're having on the world, on the climate, has grown so much, and we have so much more data available to us, now, and a better regulatory framework. Let's face it, the Clean Air Act only came into effect in 1970. We are going to be able to now really do better for the communities, for the world where we operate. But having said that, because of that, we have a lot of tough problems that we need to solve really pretty quickly. And it is my belief, because I've spent my time in this field, that chemistry is the catalyst that is going to solve these critical challenges that the world faces today. Some people like to think chemistry, chemical companies are the problem. We are the solution to the problems that the world is facing today. In 2015, the United Nations came out with 17 Sustainable Development Goals as part of their 2030 agenda. I am not going to go through all of them. You'll be happy to know. But I will tell you, chemistry is listed for 13 of those 17 as the solution. Products made possible by chemistry. And if you actually look at all 17 of these goals, chemistry will play a role in solving all of them. If you think about it, chemistry has already solved so many problems in the world today. Things like clean drinking water. You can't make it without chemistry. Dealing with sewage, pasteurization, vaccines. You go into a hospital now, sterilized bags and needles and all of these things. All of these are because people before us first started with chemistry and developed things to make the world a better place, a safer place, a cleaner place, and a healthier place. So I'm proud to be part of this industry. I am proud to do what I do and the time that I've spent. And I'm proud of everything that we as chemical engineers have collectively accomplished. And I'm also very excited about what we're going to do going forward and what all of you will do going forward. And I'm really thinking now about some of the larger issues like climate change, water, food scarcity, energy security, pandemics, waste disposals, and many more. These are daunting issues. And I believe my own company has a role to play, and I think our larger industry is capable and uniquely positioned to help with these. I want to talk about sustainability in 3 buckets. So when I think about sustainability for my company, I really look at it as we have 3 obligations. We need to first reduce the environmental footprint of our own facilities. Secondly, we need to continue to make more products that help the world be more sustainable. And thirdly, we need to make sure that our products are more sustainable. And I'll talk about each of those. So if we look at today, we know more about our operations than we ever have before. Given the advances in IT, everything, we can basically monitor everything in our plants. We know everything that's going on. At our plants, we put in private 5G networks, so our operators can do everything off a handheld device. They can walk out, they can take data, they can read data, they can know every second what's happening in the plant, and we capture data every second. We know everything that happens at our plants. It helps us run better, but it also helps us know more about emissions and releases and all of those sorts of things. So having more data is important because we need the data to know how to set our goals and then to be able to achieve our goals. So if I look at Celanese, from 2013 to 2019, Celanese reduced our greenhouse gas emissions by 30%. We have set another goal to reduce by another 30% by 2030. And these are not just aspirations. These are things we actually accomplish, backed by defined projects, defined activities, and things that will really happen. It's not buying credits. Who knows how valuable those are. This is like doing things to really reduce the footprint of our own facilities. And I think you see that across the industries. There are all sorts of new innovations that are going on. And you see, some feel a little bit like science fiction to me. We have plants now being powered by advanced nuclear reactors, little local nuclear reactors that provide energy and an increased focus. Our people are focused on capturing emissions and putting them back to work in the facility. As an example, we're just starting up this month at our Clear Lake facility, that's near Houston. At our Clear Lake facility, we are starting up the world's largest carbon capture and utilization project. So we are capturing the carbon we're capturing the CO2, which has typically been vented to the atmosphere from our unit. We're capturing that, we're putting it back through gas synthesis and making it into basically green methanol. So think of it this way, we are taking CO2 that previously went to the atmosphere, making it into methanol, which then goes downstream into our other products, so that basically the paint you put on your wall can be 65% carbon-free, or a reduction of 65% carbon. And we do that using something that was previously vented. So this is the largest of its kind, the first of its kind. And it's built on technology that our engineers have developed over the last several years. And like I said, we actually just mechanically completed the project a few weeks ago, and we're in the startup process. So I'm very excited about that, not just for Celanese, but what it means for the world, because it's a technology that others can replicate, and we can use it to not only reduce carbon footprint, but make products that also have a lower life cycle carbon footprint. as they go. So, I think if you read the sustainability report, and I encourage you to do that, companies are putting out great sustainability reports now. If you read those reports, the press releases, the websites, you're going to find all the chemical industry players are doing outstanding things to lower their footprint, to reuse materials that were previously waste, and really transform how we look at feedstocks and energy sourcing. Again, energy sourcing, a third of my power for my Clear Lake plant comes from solar. We are actively looking at everything. In the last few years, including this carbon capture project we just finished, we have reduced the CO2 footprint of that facility by itself by 65%. And these are the kind of reductions that are available to us now, given all of the technology that have been developed proudly, I would say, by chemical engineers. So I think the future is incredibly exciting for all of us. And, with the data helping drive us and knowing where to go and where to look, we can just continue to get better and better and really solve the world's problems. So let me talk about the last two buckets. The second one is we make products that help the world be more sustainable. So without chemistry, without the chemical industry, you cannot make a vehicle. And not just, and I will tell you, because I'm in the plastics business, we have twice the amount of plastics in an electric vehicle as we do in a traditional internal combustion engine vehicle. So think about it. An electric vehicle has a battery. The battery needs a critical safety thing, a lithium-ion battery separator film. We make that film. We make that polymer. It has miles of cabling in an electric vehicle. That's all coated with polymer. It is important for electric vehicles to be lightweight, so it's all about replacing metal with polymer. The average electric vehicle, I may not get the number about quite right, but I think the average electric vehicle now has about 22 kilograms of plastic content now. And you multiply that times the amount of electric vehicles, that's a lot of plastic content in an electric vehicle, but it's necessary, otherwise you wouldn't get the range on the battery, you wouldn't have the safety features, that's what it takes to make an electric vehicle. Same for wind turbines, made from plastic, solar panels, made from plastics, and everything else you think about in terms of sustainability. Even insulation for more energy efficiency, that is made from our acetyl line in Celanese, as well as window filming, all of these other things. It is absolutely necessary to have these materials for the rest of the world to realize their sustainability goals. The third bucket is how do we make our products more sustainable themselves? So our products traditionally have been fossil fuel based. We use natural gas in the US, we use coal gasification in China, sometimes crude oil based in Europe and in other parts of Asia. But we realize customers want something different. Some customers want recycled materials. So, for example, we offer a recycled nylon that is made from scrap airbags in Europe. And in India, actually, we actually recover fishing nets out of the ocean, drop them up, remelt them, and make recycled nylon out of fishing nets in Asia. We have a lot of customers, think people like IKEA, who like to be able to advertise that they use recycled plastics. That's where they get it. And so we use otherwise waste materials, recaptured from the environment, and make it into recycled materials. We're also doing a lot making bio-based materials. So instead of using fossil fuels, we buy bio-based methanol, maybe made from methane coming off waste treatment plants, or wood chips to methanol is a big bio-base now. We use bio-based methanol, we can use bio-based ethylene, and we can make products that are certified, that's the important thing, certified 97% bio-based. Some companies like Lego, anybody ever play with Lego? Yeah, okay. So some companies like Lego want to get away from fossil fuels, so they will pay for the material because, so our thing is we make the little hands for Lego. We don't make the hands, we make the polymer for them. And because you think about these little hands have to have something go in them and out of them, in and out and in and out thousands of times, and they still have to retain their shape. It is very specialized plastic. It's actually called POM. But we make that bio-based, 97% bio-based certified for Lego so that they can say they have a bio-based product. And then, we're doing more things like the carbon capture so we can even have lower carbon footprint. 10 years ago, we probably only had 10% of my product portfolio that were lower carbon footprint or more sustainable products. Today, that number is 65%, and we actually, could almost make all of our materials. Right now, the limitation is availability of bio-based things that we can use. But I would say, these tactics that we use, plus many other used in the industry, like advanced recycling being done by some of our peers in the industry, are able to take plastics that otherwise can't be easily recycled and recycle them back and recover them, which ultimately everybody's goal is to create a circular economy. And, I would just say, look, this is the direction. It takes time. It takes money. We have to develop the technology. But again, I think for everyone in this space, once we continue to apply all the bright minds, the ones we already have, and all of you coming up, we will be able to push even further along this chain. Now let me talk about some other aspects of sustainability, because sustainability is a big word, and it means a lot, and a lot of times people just think in terms of environmental, but I would say it's not just about the environment. Safety, I talked about earlier, safety is really important. For a company to be sustainable, we have to be safe. We have to keep our people safe, we have to keep our facilities safe, and we have to keep our community safe. And while it used to be normal to have a small number of safety incidents, it is not normal now, nor is it acceptable. And we work very hard to drive for zero injuries and zero events that impact our community so that we can be the best neighbor possible and the best employer possible. And I would say, this is consistently true across the industry. Having said that, so that's really about sustainable operations. Having said that, of course, people are the key here. We need a sustainable workforce. And what does that mean? People are our most incredibly important resource. Everybody says that, right? But let's think about it. We make a product. We need people to make a product. We sell a product. We need people to sell a product. We innovate new products. We innovate new processes. We need people to do those things. Our business can exist without a lot of things. We cannot exist without people. And we need people to bring that level of energy and that level of creativity and innovation to work every single day. But to do that, we have to take care of our people physically, emotionally, and financially to make sure that they can do that. And when I say emotionally, we need people to come to work. They need to feel a part of Celanese. They need to be able to bring their whole self to work every single day and be who they are. And we need to value the fact that no one of us has the single answer. We need everybody together to come up with the best solutions. My father was a woodworker, and I would say, I use example. I maybe could build a bench with only a hammer. But it is a whole lot easier to have a saw and a sander and some wood screws if I want to build a bench. And that's really the way I think about our workforce. We need saws and sanders and wood screws and hammers. We need all of those things if we are going to come up with the best, most efficient, best options that will help the world move forward in a more sustainable way. And that is really our approach in business. We need that diversity. We need that diversity of background. We need that diversity of thought. We need that diversity of experiences so that, we can bring all of that to the table, and that lets us be more effective in innovation. One of the things I really love about AICHE is our partnership on FOSSI, the Futures of STEM Scholars Initiative, which is really aimed at getting more students into historically Black colleges and universities and in a STEM area. And it's been amazingly successful, and we're so proud to be able to sponsor FOSSI and therefore build the diversity of our workforce. We've also worked with AICHE on some of the other programs around process safety and things because we think these are so important. And lastly, I would say, we want to foster that, and I was really excited actually to see the AICHE comment up here. We want to foster that culture of respect so that people, again, feel like they can bring their best selves to work every single day. And finally, I want to say we need to really work on the sustainability of our community. Look, our communities allow us to be there. I would say, what do they want from us? They want jobs, they want taxes, but they also don't want to hear us, see us, or smell us. And so we need to make sure that we are operating in a way that lets us be a good neighbor when they see us bringing more good than not, and make sure they don't see us, hear us, or smell us. And one of the ways we do that in Celanese is we really focus on volunteerism. So we really encourage all of our employees to work in the community. We do community events, we build houses for habitat, we do all of that things. And our people are very involved in the community. They like to give back, not just through volunteerism, but through financial support. Things like education, like culture. And it's also a great opportunity for us to build teams. We have teams of people go. One of the ways we try to encourage this, and we have almost 1 million hours now in the last few years that we've donated to our communities, but we also pay our people to go work in the community. So every single employee gets 16 hours of paid time to go do a year to go do volunteer community work. We also match contributions to the community. And again, many in the industry do this, so I'm not saying we're unique in that, but I think, again, you find as chemical plants, chemical industry, we are very committed to our communities as well, because we know they allow us to be there and we need to maintain that good relationship. So let me wrap up and then we'll move to questions. So I hope you've asked a lot of questions. When I reflect back on how far this industry has come since I started my career, I really marvel when I think about the amount of improvement that you and your generation is going to be able to make as well in your careers. I think, much as I can look back early in my career and kind of go, why did we think that was okay? You're going to look back in 35 years, sorry, you will get older. You're going to look back in 35 years and be like, oh, how could she have thought that was okay? Because we're going to find better ways to do things, cleaner ways to do things, more sustainable ways to do things, but you are going to find it. That's why chemical engineering is so important. That's why this group is so important, because we need that next generation of innovators to continue on the path that we've been on. You often hear the quote, the only things worth inventing have been invented already. This is not true. There is still so much opportunity space and so much room for all of you to really help make the world a better place through chemistry. I think it's really exciting. I think it's challenging, but I think it is a goal that we all need to embrace. But I would also say, look, I'm an engineer. I loved engineering when I was doing engineering. And I grew up thinking everything could be solved with the right technology. Like, all you had to do was sit down, put the pencil to the paper. You could come up with, the right technology, the logical, engineered solution. And for some of my colleagues who've gone to MBA school, they think if you just write the perfect business case, that's all you need to do. And what I'm going to say is, look, to a degree, it's true. Business cases help. Engineers are absolutely essential for solving technical issues. But I will also tell you, we have never found a technical issue we couldn't solve. The real key to getting things done is people. I would say the problem is always people. When you have a problem, it's because people either don't understand what you want, or you haven't given them the right time and tools and talent to do it. And very rarely, some people aren't willing. But usually, the fault lies in not making sure your expectations are clear and making sure people have everything they need to do the job. And that's really my role as a leader. Your role as a future leader is to make sure that we provide people with that through strong communications, strong engagement, and inclusion, because that is the work that will make you successful. That is the work that will make your future companies or universities, however you decide to go, successful. So I would just say, going forward, make sure you measure what needs to be measured. Measuring is important. You develop the technology, develop the new products, that need to be built and improve everything that needs to be improved. But don't forget to keep the people first, because ultimately that will be the success. In both business and in life, take care of the people close to you, take care of your neighbors around you, and you will leave this industry and the world better for all of us. Thank you. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Lori. So that you can still keep submitting questions, so feel free to continue with that. But a couple to start off, a little bit closer to what you talked about. Someone wanted to know, how do you set sustainability goals in your work, and how do you make sure they're attainable?
Yeah, look, it's a great question, and it's a subject of great debate, I would say, between myself and many of my CEO peers. There are two schools of thought on this. One school of thought is you set out a big aspirational, possibly unattainable goal and hope people get there. You see that with a lot of companies who have set net zero goals for 2035 or things. That is one way. I will tell you, most of those companies are now having to walk back from those because, frankly, the technology does not yet exist to get that done. My approach has been different. So when we set goals in the company, like our greenhouse gas goal, we actually sit down and say, okay, I'm not going to make it 2050 because I'll be dead by then. I mean, I'm not going to be CEO for sure. So I'm committing multiple generations after me to this goal that just doesn't seem right. And so we chose 2030. We chose something that was in our face, that we actually had to have a plan for. And we said, how will we get to that goal? And we laid out all of the projects that we knew, all the things we knew we could go do, all the things we already had in our capital plan for the next 5 years. And we said, we'll do that, and we know we always do a little bit better. So we'll go a little bit above that. And that's how we set our goals. That's how we set our goals on everything, because I'm an engineer, and I believe, if I'm gonna set a goal, then it's a commitment. It's not just an aspirational, fluffy thing. It is a commitment, and I am gonna know how to get there.
Another question, how has your skill set evolved over the 16 different positions that you have had, and what aspects of your chemical engineering education are still relevant in what you do today?
Yeah, look, it's a great question. When I came out of Iowa State, I loved kinetics and catalysis. It was all I ever wanted to do with my life. And no, it's a true story. It's sad, I know. But, and I actually took the job at Exxon because they promised me I could work in kinetics and catalysis. And I did. My first few years, I worked hydrocracking, hydrofining. I got to do catalyst activity monitoring. I selected new catalysts. I, did catalyst loading diagrams. It was so fun. I loved it. And then they were like, oh, now we want you to go do economics. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that. They're like, oh, you'll be a better engineer for doing it. So I went and did it. And then they wanted me to do something else. I'm like, I don't want to do it. They're like, oh, you'll be better for doing it. And eventually, I didn't do any more catalysis and kinetics. But so I would say what I learned is the first time I became a supervisor in the plant and working with the guys who turned the valves and, made the product is really when I fell in love. I mean, I was just like, wow, this is where things happen. This is where the real work, the engineering hits the real world, and we get the real work to happen because we need to make product. And, and I think from there, my career just evolved as I really learned that being able to leverage my knowledge and my deep technical experience really then allow me to leverage that through other people by being a leader. I've supervised engineers, I've supervised research, I've supervised everything. And, it sounds like I don't do engineering, but I will tell you, even today, because I review the large capital projects, it is, when I go to a plant, we get geeky. We talk technical stuff. We talk about corrosion, one of my favorite subjects. We can talk about all 23 mechanisms if you'd like. So it allows me to connect. My background now allows me to connect with people in the plant because I've been there, I've sat in their shoes, we can talk technical stuff. It also helps me be a really good reviewer of capital projects because I sit there and I go, yeah, this doesn't make any sense. Or if we've had an incident, people will be like, oh, this was the root cause. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't make sense, guys. Let's talk through this, starting with basic principles, right? And so I would say I couldn't do my job effectively if I didn't have the chemical engineering background, because it is so central to everything that we do.
You mentioned chemical kinetics. Just a couple short answer questions, because you already answered the first one. What was your least favorite class?
Oh. Does P-Chem count?
Sure.
Yeah.
Physical chemistry is still generally a required
Yeah.
class, so yes, absolutely. What's your favorite unit operation?
My favorite unit operation?
Your favorite unit operation?
Fluidized beds.
A fluidized bed, excellent. And
Yeah.
what would be your favorite atom or chemical molecule?
Carbon.
Carbon, excellent. Okay, you can study for physical chemistry later.
Yeah.
In terms of advice for some of our students here, what advice would you give for the students that are interested in impacting sustainability earlier in their careers?
Yeah, look, my advice is go work for a chemical company. Go work for a company and help them on their journey. A lot of people are like, I really care about the environment. I want to go work for an NGO. Well, that's not actually going to help. You need to actually go work for someone who's going to develop solutions, not just point out problems. And so go work for a company and get involved and get engaged in their program. I know, we have a sustainability council. It's people who volunteer. They really care deeply about the environment, and they help drive us. They help move us in the right direction. They've helped accelerate our journey. And it's a lot easier to change the world from the inside by being a solution provider than it is to change the world from the outside by being a nag. Sorry, I deal a lot with NGOs, yeah.
We also have a number of very ambitious students in the room. So in terms of, for someone who's interested in both getting their first promotion or becoming an executive, what advice would you give them for how to think about their careers?
Yeah, so look, I think it's pretty easy. Well, it's not easy, but my advice is easy. All right, my advice is easy. Like, if you want to succeed, especially in more of a leadership career, you need to show that you add value. And you need to approach your job every day, like not just I did my job, but what else did I do to add value? And that means that you need to be a risk taker. Not necessarily, you're not going to take a risk with people's lives, you're not going to take a risk with equipment, but you need to be willing to take personal risk. You need to decide the things that you believe in, that you will stake your reputation on. I'll give you a very quick example. So I had been working about 5 years, I guess, and I was a unit supervisor out in the field. We had a turnaround coming up, and this old guy, Roy, very deep technical expert for the units downstream from me, from some wax lubricant units, came and he said, Lori, you guys are poisoning my catalyst. And I'm like, really? Like what? And so he showed me the data. I'm like, well, it does look like we're poisoning his catalyst, and it looked like we were doing it because we had too much entrainment of heavy ends into his side stream. And we're just literally 2 weeks from turnaround. And I liked Roy because he was deeply technically competent. Gruff, he was a curmudgeon, but he was very technically competent. And so I got my technical team together, and we called in some experts from our research group, and we said, what could we do about this? And we actually came up with a very simple annular ring design to put in the bottom of this vacuum tower that would basically direct the crew when it came in so that it wouldn't just fly up into his side stream, which was the one right above it, but would actually kind of direct it to the bottom, and then it would, would get better. And it wasn't really expensive. I mean, magically, it was $99,000, and my authorization limit was $100,000. So I actually went to my boss and said, his name was Skip. I said, Skip, I'm going to put this in on the turnaround in now 2 days. And he's like, that's a really bad idea. And I'm like, well, but we have this problem, and it will really help the lube units to get rid of this entrainment issue. And he's like, yeah, I get that, but you guys are so late. How do you know it's going to work? I'm like, well, the engineering says it's going to work. And like, if it doesn't work, I just he's like, what if it doesn't work? I'm like, well, then I have to shut down the tower and tear it back out. And he was a good boss in the sense that he was like, look, I think you're crazy, but if you want to do it, it's on you. But understand, if it doesn't work, you're going to get fired. And he meant it. It wasn't like an idle threat. It was like, you're going to get fired. But I believed it. And it was like, we can solve a problem. I love solving problems. And so we put it in, and it worked beautifully. And, we saved probably $20 million a year from that, what truly was a $99,000 investment. And so it's being willing to find the opportunities to add value to the company, to solve problems, and take that personal risk of like, I believe in this enough, I'll do it, to do it. Now, the other thing I would say is you need to be flexible. I had a lot of jobs. I did not want half of them. But I took them because they told me it would be good for me, And they were good for me because they provided me the training that I needed to really be effective, to learn, to grow as a leader of people. And so you've got to be flexible. You've got to be willing to take the jobs. And for some companies, you have to be able to move. If you want to live in your hometown for the rest of your life, you probably will never be a CEO unless you start your own company. So, there's a certain amount of flexibility, and it's just the reality that these careers require.
Thank you. Another question, how has being a woman in chemical engineering impacted your career? And what advice do you have for young women going into this field while still embracing their own identities?
Yeah, look, it was a lot different in 1984 when I started working. I was the only female hired in the plant that year as an engineer. There were a few other women that had been hired the years before, but there weren't very many of us. I know we talk about microaggressions now, and I'm not discounting that at all. That is a real thing. But when I started, it was macroaggression. It was, why are you here? Why aren't you home having babies? Why are you taking a man's job? Blah, 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 blah. We heard it all. I mean, you had to be tough when you started back then, and Darlene can relate to this. I mean, you had to be tough. I mean, we used to say it was just like water off a duck's back. You just had to be, I grew up with 3 older brothers, best training ever for having this career. Yeah. Because there was nothing you could have done or said to me that hadn't been tried. So, it was a great training, but you just had to let it go and be like, it just made me more determined to be successful and more determined to just put my head down and work and prove that I deserved to be there. And it was interesting because over time, as some of the people who were actually very ugly to me at first, as they got older and their daughters got older, would come to me and be like, hey, would you talk to my daughter about engineering? Because I really want her to be financially independent. And, maybe that would be a good career. And so, times have changed. Look, it is still different. Even when I was a refinery manager, I had a guy, a vendor come in my office and be like, I need to talk to your boss. I'm like, well, that's going to be hard because he's in Virginia. And he was like, no, I need to talk to the refinery manager. I'm like, I am the refinery manager. She's like, no, your boss, the refinery manager. I mean, and this was 2005. So look, these stereotypes still exist. And that's why you hear me talk so much about inclusion. Because this is also who I am. I love my coveralls, my steel-toed boots, but this is also who I am. And I don't need to change that because of the industry I am in or who I am. I mean, I want people to be themselves. I want people, whatever their style, as long as it's respectful towards other, I want people to be able to be themselves at work because that was the opportunity I didn't get early in my career. I had to fit the mold. We wore the suits, we had to wear skirts, and we wore pants in the field, skirts in the office, little floppy bow ties. But that was you had to just adopt the uniform so that you could avoid crossfire. Now we don't live that way, and I'm so glad it's changed. But so my advice is be yourself, do good work. As long as you do good work, make a difference, give value, you can be yourself all day long, every day.
Thank you. One final question. If you could go back and give your undergraduate self some advice, what would you tell yourself?
I don't know. It's hard. If I look back, I was not particularly ambitious as an undergraduate. I should have gotten better grades, honestly, but oh well. There you go. But I would say when I went to work, I really just wanted to be an engineer. I didn't really have a view of the opportunity available to me. And I would say in many ways, I was lucky. I spent so much time working. I mean, the good thing is I did a good job. I work for Exxon, that is very much a meritocracy. And so because I did a good job, they almost had to promote me. You know, it was kind of one of those things. But I never really was active. I never have had a mentor. I never really was active in trying to find, mentors or talk to people about what does it take, what do I need to do. I kind of lucked my way through the chain. And I would say, if I could give advice to myself, it would be to have been somewhat more intentional about my career. I mean, hey, it worked out okay. But, I think probably if I had been a little more intentional about my career, it might have been helpful.
It'll work out, I think, is good advice, too. Thank you so much, Lori.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Grab all my stuff in.
Now, before I let you all go, I want to highlight a few of the events on today's schedule. Immediately after this, we'll have AICHE's Board of Directors is holding a town hall, and they do want to hear what you, as the next generation of chemical engineers, have to say. That starts at 10 a.m. in the Orlando Ballroom M&N. After that, there are career and skill workshops throughout the afternoon, many of them conducted by young professionals in AICHE. There'll be lunch that you can pick up at 12:30, followed by the leadership panel. Be sure that you have your badge on when you come get lunch and you go into sessions. They'll be checking for those. Later today, the Chemi Jeopardy competition gets underway. The evening hours include an ice cream social hosted by AICHE's LGBTQ+ community. You need tickets for that. And tonight's evening concludes with the night of networking. Very important reminder, you need to set your watches back 1 hour tonight. Some of the programming people suggested we start an hour early tomorrow. I convinced them not, so I suggest you do something fun with your extra hour this evening. And then tomorrow, we'll have our ChemiCar competition, which is celebrating its 25th year, and we'll have lots of professional opportunities for you to continue. That's all I have, and I leave it to you. Take care.